News at 4, ABC 10 News at 5 starts right now.
An FDA panel rejecting COVID-19 boosters for most and limiting them to older adults and those at high risk. The heated debate and what we could expect to happen next.
Plus, a Camp Pendleton Marine injured during the bombings in Afghanistan is back in San Diego to receive treatment. How close he was to the bomb and how he managed to escape.
And the Poway Synagogue shooter enters a second guilty plea, this time in federal court. The penalties he's now facing.
ABC 10 News at 5 starts now.
Older, high-risk Americans will be able to get a third dose of the Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine. The green light coming after an FDA panel voted against a broad rollout of the booster shot. Good evening, I'm Lindsay Pena.
And I'm Steve Atkinson. Researchers say giving a booster shot could lower the rate of breakthrough infections. ABC's Rena Roy shows us the heated debate that led up to today's decision.
It's a contentious debate amongst the nation's top health officials, a topic so divided the FDA's vaccine chief urging scientists to hear each other out as Friday's critical meeting on booster shots kicked off.
And we strongly encourage all the different viewpoints to be voiced and discussed regarding the data, which is complex and evolving.
Ultimately, the committee voting against a third dose of the Pfizer vaccine for Americans 16 and up.
This vote did not pass.
They did, however, recommend boosters for people 65 and older and those at high risk of severe disease. New data out of Israel indicates an additional Pfizer shot gave 10 times more protection against COVID and severe disease. The company recommending boosters 6 months after the second dose. This as the virus runs rampant in some schools across the country. In Texas, more than 126,000 students have tested positive since classes began a few weeks ago. In Kentucky, one district temporarily suspending in-person learning because of a growing number of infections. Pediatric nurse Holly Pazzi in Montana says she's seeing a concerning surge of cases in children.
It's really clear to us that the Delta variant is making an impact on pediatrics.
Right now, more than 2,000 children are hospitalized with the virus. Tennessee has the highest infection rate in the U.S. Hospitals there are filled with the unvaccinated.
Not getting the vaccine, it could cost you your life. I've actually lost several family members since I've been in here from COVID.
The country reported more than 10,000 confirmed COVID-19 deaths in the last week, but some hopeful news from the CDC. Daily COVID hospital admissions will likely go down over the next month. Rena Roy, ABC News, New York.
California healthcare workers have less than 2 weeks to comply with the state's vaccine mandate. Those who don't risk losing their jobs. Our ABC 10 News reporter Nia Watson checked in with local hospitals on their vaccination rates.
There will be a contingent of folks that will have to be placed on administrative leave at September 30th.
Sharp's healthcare chief operating officer Brett McLean spoke with Kogo AM radio, expressing his concerns on the impact the state's vaccine mandate could have on the hospital. Right now, 89% of Sharp's 19,000 employees are vaccinated.
Very proud of that. That's gone up 10 percentage points just in the last about 5 weeks. And so we're continuing to work on that because we want to make sure that we keep as many of our healthcare workers as possible.
But McLean says an estimated 600 workers haven't gotten the shot and don't qualify for medical or religious exemptions. If employees don't comply by September 30th, Sharp's policy says they'll be put on leave and have a month to get vaccinated or be let go. Something legal analyst Wendy Patrick says is a tough situation to be in, given the ongoing staffing shortages at hospitals.
What do you do if you have COVID cases rising, vaccination rates falling, and ICU bed space dwindling? Do you lay off a significant portion of your staff?
Both Scripps Healthcare and UCSD Health report employee vaccination rates are at least 90%. At Rady Children's Hospital, 87%. Some hospitals have also received hundreds of medical or religious exemption requests from staff, which is a gray area, Patrick says, particularly when it comes to what qualifies as a religious exemption.
This is going to go straight from the emergency room to the courtroom. Due to the amount of employees that have not yet made any move to becoming vaccinated and due to the record number of exemption requests that are flying in.
Nia Watson, ABC 10 News.
Scripps Healthcare says it is complying with the state's vaccine mandate, but would not specify its non-compliant policy for employees. A spokesperson with Rady Children's Hospital says they are still working on their non-compliant policy as well. And here are the latest numbers on coronavirus in San Diego County. More than 600 new cases were reported today. Again, we're under 1,000. That's the good news. There were also, though, 8 new deaths. That brings our death toll now to more than 4,000.
There are new developments involving the Poway Synagogue shooter. Today, John Ernest pleaded guilty to federal charges. 1 woman was killed and 3 others were injured in the hate-motivated attack back in 2019. ABC 10 News reporter Mimi Alcala is joining us. And Mimi, Ernest previously pleaded guilty to state charges.
Hi, Lindsay. Yeah, and he's expected to be sentenced on those state charges at the end of this month. As for the federal hearing that happened at the courthouse here today, cameras aren't allowed inside, but Ernest walked in shackled and remained emotionless the whole time, really only saying yes or no when answering the judge's questions. Now, we do have some video of John Ernest from previous court hearings on that separate state case we just mentioned. Today, he pleaded guilty to the 113-count federal hate crime indictment, most of those charges carrying life sentences and really hefty fines. In 2019, Ernest opened fire on congregants inside of the Chabad of Poway, killing 60-year-old Lori Gilbert Kay and injuring 3 other people, including the rabbi, a young girl, and her uncle. Today, as the judge asked him several yes or no questions, Ernest admitted to planning the attack on Jewish people because of his hatred for them, purchasing the assault rifle, writing and posting an open letter on social media, then carrying out that attack. In addition to that, he also admitted to trying to burn down an Escondido mosque a month before because of his hatred for Muslims, while 7 people were inside. According to the plea agreement, prosecutors and Ernest will jointly recommend a sentence of life in prison plus 30 years. And now Ernest also pleaded guilty to the charges in that state case recently, and he's scheduled to be sentenced for that on September 30th. Today, the U.S. Attorney's Office of Southern California said the religiously and racially motivated attacks resulted in the murder of 1 person and attempted murder of 53 others. So for the case happening here at the federal courthouse, he's expected to be sentenced on December 28th. Of course, we'll bring you any new updates in this case. For now, we're live downtown. Mimi Alcala, ABC 10 News.
Thank you, Mimi. And in the last hour, New York real estate heir Robert Durst has been convicted of his best friend's murder. A Los Angeles jury found him guilty today of killing Susan Berman back in 2000. Prosecutors say this was to cover up the disappearance of his wife in 1982. Durst was only on trial for killing Berman, but is suspected of killing his missing wife and later a man in Texas. In a 2003 trial, Durst was acquitted of killing that man. Sentencing is scheduled for October 18th.
The U.S. military is calling a deadly drone strike in Kabul, Afghanistan last month a mistake. That's after an investigation found it had killed 10 civilians in a vehicle it thought was carrying ISIS members. General Frank McKenzie offered an apology and stressed that future strikes would be held to a higher standard. The drone strike on August 29th was in response to what the U.S. military claimed was an imminent threat to U.S. forces still in Afghanistan at the time. A Camp Pendleton Marine injured during the bombings in Afghanistan is back in San Diego to receive treatment. Family members tell our ABC 10 News reporter Michael Chen he was close to the bomb when it went off.
As news of the bombings in Kabul filtered out 3 weeks ago, Nicole Hood was filled with dread. She believed her nephew, 20-year-old Camp Pendleton Marine Michael Gretson, was in Afghanistan.
The rest of the day we were frozen until we heard from him, and we did not hear from him for hours later.
Hood says when he reached his family, they learned he was alive but injured. This photo of Gretson was taken as he was being treated in the hours after the bombing.
Michael was about 10 to 15 feet away from the explosion when it happened.
Hood says her nephew has been reluctant to share many details, but believes he was behind a short barrier near Abbey Gate outside the airport when the bomb went off. The explosion blew out his eardrum as it sent shrapnel into his left side.
Hit his left shoulder and his bicep, and right now he cannot move below his elbow. He's having a hard time moving.
As more tests are done, the shrapnel has yet to be removed for fear of causing more damage. The bombing also left Gretson with a traumatic brain injury.
His short-term memory right now has been affected, so we're trying to get further medical attention.
Gretson has been awarded the Purple Heart. Hood says more than a week ago, Gretson was transferred from Walter Reed Army Medical Center in Maryland to Naval Medical Center, San Diego. He is one of 18 service members injured in the bombings. 13 were killed.
Ones that survived it, they're living the rest of their life remembering it and going through it over and over again. We know that we're lucky he's alive, but we're also worried about him and his future.
Michael Chen, ABC 10 News.
Hood, who lives in Wisconsin, has set up a GoFundMe campaign to help with expenses. There is a link on our homepage at 10news.com.
The helicopter that CAL FIRE uses to rescue people is now upgraded to give better medical care. They gave ABC 10 News a look at the improvements today. The biggest difference is that now a paramedic will ride on the helicopter. So when the helicopter rescues someone from San Diego's backcountry, they'll be able to get medical attention right away. CAL FIRE tells us the new capabilities have already been used 7 times in the 1 week since the upgrade.
And they're in bad shape, dehydrated, nauseous, and we were able to take the ALS care with us, and they were able to treat them right on scene, get them feeling better right away before we transport them to the awaiting ground ambulance.
The paramedics riding along get trained to do their work in the air instead of on the ground. Well, thousands of people will no longer be going on a cruise that was set to depart from San Diego tomorrow.
Most of those passengers were told last month that that cruise was canceled, but one couple was forgotten. That couple contacted ABC 10 News saying that they learned about the cancellation just days ago. As our ABC 10 News reporter Leah Pizzetti found out, the cruise line admits an error was made.
Back in mid-August, Kurt Meyer booked a cruise through Holland America Line. Their California coastal trip was supposed to leave San Diego this Saturday, September 18th. Just 5 days before, he says his wife called the cruise line to ask a COVID question.
That call taker said nothing about the cruise being canceled. All she basically did was answer her questions. So we're still expecting to go on a cruise on Saturday.
2 days later, they called with another booking question. This time, they were told their trip had been canceled 4 weeks prior to then.
This is when the first time she was informed that the cruise had been canceled.
Kurt says she was put on hold, then he called to try to get answers, but was told the trip was not canceled.
She's like, I have a list of cancellation cruises. It's not on that list. There's nothing in my system showing it's been canceled. I'll have to check a few things. I'm going to put you on hold.
Multiple calls later with conflicting information, and they decided to ask for a refund. Later noticing that the day before the trip was supposed to happen, their app still read, "Your journey starts in 11 hours. They turned to ABC 10 News to try to find answers about why no one seemed to know what was happening.
Even if the cruise had been canceled on the 25th, like Holland America claimed, and they had sent an email that we never saw or somehow accidentally deleted, we still have 3 people we've spoken to, 1 on Monday and 2 on Wednesday, who all were telling us the cruise was still going. And their application that you download still showed a departure on the 18th.
Holland America Line responded, saying they did make a mistake in not notifying the Meyers about the cancellation, saying they will now work to accommodate them. Leah Pizzetti, ABC 10 News.
That's good they are. In regards to the conflicting information, a spokesperson from the cruise line says that they are now looking into how this happened so they can improve procedures and trainings.